Hey, basketball fans, welcome to a WNBA Finals edition of your favorite WNBA show on YouTube. That is Around the Rim. I'm your co-host, LaChina Robinson, joined as always by my fantastic and fabulous co-host, Terrika Foster-Brasby. Though I should be a little bit upset with Terrika with the way she put me out on Twitter, but I'm going to drink my Dunkin' Donuts and be quiet.
I'll have you guys know LaChina has now got people on Twitter thinking that I'm a bully, and I don't appreciate this slander or how this narrative has turned.
I got bullied. That's all I want to say. You can go watch the video for yourself. I was being so quiet and so, just really into what you were saying, and she was just. Anyway, y'all should go back and look at the video.
I can't even try to be serious. All I'm trying to say is, I called this in 4. This one didn't want to make a prediction. Now, when we record the show tomorrow, y'all just remember that I said this was going to be over in 4.
But that is not the subject of this conversation. The subject of this conversation is we now know what two teams will be playing for a WNBA championship starting this Sunday. It's the Las Vegas Aces and the Connecticut Sun, with so much to unpack in the semifinal series between these two teams. Terrika is obviously elated that the Sun are in the finals, so we'll save that for a second. We're going to start off with the Las Vegas Aces series after winning in 4 games against the Seattle Storm. Terrika, I would just start with, I saw this series going 5, and I know you're going to talk about your prediction in a moment, but I just thought these two teams were super evenly matched. What an outstanding series for us as fans. I'm a fan of that series because I'm not covering it, to watch between these two heavy hitters. Asia, Breanna Stewart, Chelsea Gray, Jewell Loyd, like so many plays. But at the end of the day, super, super, super level of respect for Vegas and what they did in 4 games, including winning 2 on the road in Seattle. Yep. Like, what was your takeaway in that series?
So first, let me give a quick shout out to Stewie, because Stewie balled in game 4. Was it 39 points? Like, Stewie balled in game 4. She came out and she played with the kind of intensity that you want your superstar player to play at in an elimination game. Uh-huh. Problem is, she didn't really get the kind of assistance to match that energy that I think we were expecting. Mm-hmm. And so when you kind of have that happen, this is the result that you get. I honestly saw this series going 4 from the beginning. Game 1, I wasn't ready to make a prediction. After game 1, I said it will be the Las Vegas Aces that will win this in 4. I just felt like the X Factor, who maybe many didn't or won't consider an X Factor because she's so good and she's a champion, but in this series, she absolutely was the difference maker to me. And that was just Chelsea Gray. Like, she just consistently, from the moment these playoffs have begun, and has just turned it up every single game. And just seeing how she continued to come out, how she continued to pass the ball well, how she continued to shoot the ball well, how she continued to literally be the go-to person in every moment that they needed her, and even in some that they didn't. That's what sealed it for me. And that is why I am going to be so excited to see her in the finals, because I don't know how you can go up from here, but I have a great feeling that she is. And so, that was my hugest takeaway.
Well, and Breanna Stewart had 42 points.
42.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely was fantastic. Jewell Loyd had 29, 9 for 21 from the field. Those were the only 2 players in double figures, while Vegas Aces had 4. A'ja Wilson with 23, Jackie Young with 18, Kelsey Plum with 15, Chelsea Gray with 31 points. I mean, we have not seen a performance like what we're seeing from Chelsea Gray as far as the level of efficiency in which she's shooting the basketball right now in these playoffs. And what we know to be true about Chelsea Gray is that she has always been a prolific passer, a clutch shot maker. But what she is doing on the offensive end right now is really incredible. Even defensively, guarding bigs in their small lineup for Vegas, and just doing everything. Now, we hear that she was a little motivated after being snubbed from the All-Star game. But I really feel like you have to have a guard that kind of goes crazy. And Jewel got better as the game went on, but wasn't really consistent throughout the series. And I will say this, and I think I'm going to come back to this point even with Connecticut and Chicago's game 4. It's how you lose that to me carries over in a series. Before game 4, Seattle lost to Vegas in an overtime thriller on ABC. And though the game went into overtime, it was all Vegas in that overtime period. Like, I think they ended up winning. I'm not sure what the score was, maybe by almost double figers, if not.
It was all Chelsea Gray.
Yeah, it wasn't right. And it wasn't close. And so you got the feeling then, you were like, okay, Vegas was supposed to lose this game. Like, Sue Bird hits a corner 3. Tina Charles misses 2 free throws. Like, there's a number of things that happened. Jackie Young's swim moves on Ezzie Magbagor. Like, there were so many things that happened. Chelsea Gray is making play after play. Like, and you just felt like in that overtime, Vegas had a mental and physical advantage over Seattle. And the mental mistakes by the Storm down the stretch, you know, defensively and in every other way, you know, they ended up paying for. And so that felt like it carried over into game 4. And for me, Tina Charles, who missed those 2 free throws in game 3, in game 4, Tina was 1 for 7. I said that she was my X factor. 1 for 7 with 2 points. They needed Tina to really show up big in these moments. And no game comes down to one player. But as you talk about Seattle or Stewie needing more support, let's be specific. Like, Jewel has 29.
Yep.
You know, Sue had 8 assists. She did have 4 turnovers in that game. But to me, because I have so much respect for Tina Charles and who she is as a player and what she does on the court night in and night out, I think those 2 moments of the free throws and the 2 points in the deciding game for me were a little disappointing, right?
Yep.
So this series, I think at the end of the day, just proved that Seattle, while playing their best basketball at the right time, had not played consistently great basketball throughout the course of the season. Yes, they got Tina Charles in the middle. Yes, it takes time to get her acclimated. Yes, they were playing at a high level somewhat against DC, but there was Washington Mystics high level Seattle, and then there was Las Vegas high level. And Seattle just couldn't get there.
And you know what, at the end of the day, regardless of the outcome, this is still more than likely going to be regarded as one of the best WNBA playoff series that we've ever seen.
Yes.
Because it was just literally on the edge of your seat almost every game. And I think, to your point about how you end things, that was one of the things that really stood out to me, was how game 4, the sequence of the possession of how game 4 ended, to me was just mind-blowing a little bit, because you expected at least one last shot, one last fight, one last opportunity.
It looked like Sue had an opportunity for a shot. They just blew it.
Didn't take it, dribbled
very lackadaisical.
Dribbled way too long, held the ball way too long, tried to get in an extra pass. Somehow Stewie slips, ball rolls out, and then the game is just over. So it was very anticlimactic at the end. But ultimately, this was indeed a series that I don't think any of us will ever forget. And most certainly is one that Sue Bird won't forget, as that was her very last moment. That was her last time in a Seattle Storm uniform as a player in the WNBA. And I don't think she's trying to pull never mind, I changed my mind, I'm gonna come back. Like, she's done. And you would hate to see a player with the resume that she has and with the love that fans give her end on that kind of a note. But kudos again to her in her career. We've given her a lot of love this entire year. Continue to do that. And we'll just look to see what will happen next year. I mean, Noelle Quinn has a great group that she's still working with. She still, has to.
She's still working with Stewie is not on contract.
As of today.
As of today? What you mean? The season's over.
As of today, she can begin to be promising with what she wants to do next year. Now, if there's a possibility of Stewie coming back, maybe take that up with New York, because I still find it very funny that at the beginning of this year, she was having a whole conversation with New York and we didn't know if Stewie was going to come back. But at any rate, Noelle Quinn got some things that she needs to do over the offseason, and I want to allow her the opportunity to figure that out because I think she's a great coach.
But she's not the GM, though.
She's not the GM.
And let me say this. I want to make one more point, though, before we close on the series. Hindsight is always 2020. Mm-hmm. And Lord knows I've never coached a WNBA team. But I think I would have bought Gabby Williams off of the bench after she came back. That's just me. I would have left Talbot in the starting lineup the way it had been going because they had kind of gotten a little bit acclimated to that. They had, adjusted, won a game. But yeah, I probably would have brought Gabby off of the bench. But anyway, that's hindsight. Yes, to your point, Stewie, we don't know what her future holds. Jewel Lloyd is under contract. Sue Bird is obviously gone, so they need another point guard. Yeah. Breon January has ended her stellar career. And so a lot of question marks and a lot to be decided. Stewie has talked about prioritization, as has Gabby Williams, with that being a factor in how they will move forward. So a lot to figure out. Now, we don't have a ton of time, and I know people hate it when I say that, but we do want to move to the Chicago-Connecticut series because, Terrika, you and I just flew in from Chicago.
That's why I look like this. That's why I look a mess, y'all. I just got off the plane 30 minutes ago. You look great.
So with that, what? Yes, I do. Anyway, I'm actually about to go get my hair done. Y'all about to see.
Girl, you see these nails? Y'all see these nails, fans? I'm going to the nail shop as soon as we leave. Okay.
But so we've been in Chi, and Connecticut went on an 18-0 run in Game 5. We get a decisive Game 5. We're headed back to Connecticut to Chicago. The Sky had to be embarrassed with the way Game 4 went because this, out of all the times these teams have met this season, this was the only blowout on paper. Now you could say Game 2 was a blowout, even Connecticut fought their way back at the end, but Game 4 was a legit snatch your chain win for Connecticut. And you got to give them credit because they looked bad. They've missed all the layups. What was that, Game 3 where they really couldn't make a bucket? Was that Game 3? Mm-hmm. We really couldn't make a layup. The turnovers, they have had so many moments of frustration. But when I tell you, Chicago had all the momentum and a fourth quarter lead in Game 5. There was an altercation between Duana Bonner and Kalia Copper. And yes, Copper was one tech away from getting suspended. Everyone says, I personally think, looking at it hindsight, the officials' options were to give both players a tech, give both players a flagrant. James Wade could have got a tech for coming off the bench. Jonquel Jones could have gotten one for coming over and pushing Copper. It sounds like they just, since there were two egregious situations on each side, they just decided to cancel it. I think the difference between showing emotion and putting your hands on someone, there's a distinction there that has to be made. So I was surprised the officials walked away with nothing. However, fine, play on. Let both teams just decide and scrap it out. And Chicago didn't score again.
Didn't score a basket.
Did not score one bucket, Terrika. And this is after really snatching the momentum down the stretch of the third quarter. They outscored Connecticut 18-8 in the third quarter.
Yeah.
5 points is all Chicago scored in the fourth. 5 points. Here's what I'll say. Going and looking at the end of that game, hindsight, taking nothing away from the Connecticut Sun. They were aggressive, as always. They were, okay, let me back up. All right. The Connecticut Sun played their style of basketball the whole game, right? I said this coming out of halftime. Mm-hmm. Even though James Wade told our Roz Goldon Wude that he felt like both teams were playing that style, no, James. They are not each playing their style. Chicago never felt like they had a grasp on things offensively to me in that game. They were passing up shots, weren't really aggressive, defensively even, like the way they can get up and pressure and then get into transition. We didn't really see that. They were scoring off of offensive rebounds. They were just scoring. They were scoring. It was tied at half, but it was still felt like Connecticut's game. And for them to hold Chicago to 34% shooting from the field, 32% from three. This is a Chicago offense that dominated this WNBA season, set a WNBA record for assists, beautiful basketball, versatility, great point guard in Courtney Vandersloot, one of the GOATs in Candace Parker. But 5 points, there was some panic. There were bad possessions, bad shots, which might as well be a turnover, which led to a lot of transition for Connecticut. Connecticut was the team that honed in on their style of play in that fourth quarter. After that altercation, they said, all right, y'all want to get tough? You want to buck? Let's do this. They locked down on D. They got out in transition. They played with desperation. You can't take anything away from Connecticut. Chicago, on the other hand, they had to wake up this morning with some regrets. We usually don't see Courtney Vandersloot, a pass off the backboard. Allie Quigley with a couple of very bad shot decisions. Candace Parker passing it out in the post when she's got Alyssa Thomas on her back. I mean, Emma Mieseman getting blocked by Jonquel Jones. Credit Connecticut. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
23 turnovers. That's how many turnovers Connecticut had in this game, 8 of which came in the third quarter.
Yep.
They came out of the half tied at 40 apiece. 23 turnovers, though. When has a team won a playoff game with 23 turnovers? It doesn't happen. It hasn't happened. This was the first. So there's that. And then I also think that there became a moment where Chicago wasn't really playing to win and was kind of playing to not lose. And there's a difference.
Connecticut in game 3.
Yep. And that's exactly, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. Like playing to not lose versus playing to win. If you're a football fan, we call that prevent defense. They're playing prevent way too early. And that moment between Kalia, DeWanna Bonner, JJ, that whole thing, that was literally the turning point of the game. And not just because of the 18-0 run that, followed it, but just you could see the energy and the emotion really feel like it was getting more to Chicago, where it was fueling Connecticut, where Connecticut is looking like, oh, wait, we got this team real upset. And we're the ones that's losing. Because at the time, it was I believe the score was 61-63. Mm-hmm. And Alyssa Thomas was headed to the foul line to shoot 2, which tied the game 63-63. So at that moment, it was more than just, I'm trying. And here's the thing, that kind of aggression, it worked in Chicago's favor in game 1 because they started to try to roar back, and they didn't win that game. But at the end of the day, you could see that was when the ball tie-up happened between Kalia and Courtney, and that type of emotion and energy and aggression, it fueled Chicago. But this was they were in a different place, I think, emotionally. And I've also said, from the end of yesterday up until today, I felt like there was a lot of reliance on Candace. And I don't necessarily mean from an on the court perspective. I think that she's usually the person that gears this team up, that, uses her veteran leadership and her presence to really keep this team focused. That's how it seems. That's what leaders do, right? So you expect that from leaders anyway. But I just think, you get to a point in the season where it starts to catch up to you, where time starts to catch up to you, where fatigue starts to catch up to you, where when you've given so much of this the entire year, it starts to catch up to you. And I felt like yesterday was a game that it started to catch up to Candace a little bit, and definitely started to catch up to the team, because it didn't really feel like they came out with the same energy in general that we've seen them come out with previously. And after the game, during the press conference, we saw Candace say, I'm not going to cheat the game. And so I'm going to go back and I'm going to evaluate what this looks like for me. And if I can't come out and play the kind of basketball that I want to play for myself, then I need to consider that and be real about that, right?
I'm going to go back and reevaluate whether I'm able to continue to play at the level that I hold myself to. And I think that's the biggest thing, is I don't ever want to cheat the game. I won't cheat the game. So when I'm not able to go out and play and be, the Candace that I want to be, I won't play.
And so I don't know if this is the last that we'll see of Candace. I would hate to think that this is the last game that we'll see from her, because I know she wanted so much better for herself and her team. But it's a reality that we've had to face. We've had to face losing Serena this year. We had to face losing Allison Phoenix this year. We had to face losing a lot of people who we weren't ready to. And we have to be ready for this real reality that Candace may be making a decision much sooner than we all want her to. But at the end of the day, this Chicago team just did not come out as if this was a game 5. Period.
Just like they didn't come out in game 4, like they had a closeout opportunity.
They didn't.
And to your point about Candace Parker, so Kahleah Copper had 22 points. And I thought a couple things about Copper. She missed a late layup, meant to add her to the list of these possessions that didn't go well for Chicago. But she was not as able to, I thought she let the emotion of the game get to her throughout this series. We saw several times where it was like, Ka is bothered, even in her interviews.
Yeah,
I thought it was fueling her in this game, and I think ultimately it came back to bite her a little bit, because you got to kind of have that even keel. But she had a fantastic game in terms of her performance. Candace Parker, 2 for 7. Nothing. One of the most untalked about points of this series, and we mentioned it on the broadcast, was when Kurt Miller decided to go with Jonquel Jones on Candace instead of Alyssa Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Candace did not respond well to Jonquel as her primary defender. The length of Jonquel Jones is different. She's able to just turn and shoot over Alyssa Thomas, but she wasn't even able to do that. So to your point down the stretch, did we see a Candace that was exhausted? Did we see a Candace that can't really perform with only one day rest in between? Taking nothing away from the Connecticut Sun, but these are all things that we know about her throughout her career, and we at least need to discuss. Now, what happens in her future? This is going to be the hard part for Candace. And that is that we have no idea what's going to happen with this roster. Courtney Vandersloot is not on contract. Allie Quigley is not on contract. Most think she may retire. Last night, Sloot made some unslootable mistakes. Like 3 assists for Sloot, 5 turnovers. Like, this is uncharacteristic. Allie Quigley was 1 for 12. So what is the taste in the mouth of those players as they evaluate their future moving forward? And I think what happens with this roster could dictate what ultimately happens with Candace Parker next season. Because there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered. All season, James Wade has been like, we'll get to that. I don't need to talk about that now. And let me just also say for James Wade, I think he finished last night's game with 3 timeouts in his pocket that he didn't call as the offense was unraveling. Could that have made a difference? He tried to let his team play through. I have all these thoughts, but that was one of them. Anyway, we don't know what's going to happen with Candace, but I have to believe that this entire series, and honestly playoffs where they haven't consistently played well, has to be feeling like pretty bad as they head into the offseason.
And you know what? Let's just, be real about it too. Winning back-to-back is hard.
Yes.
It's just point blank and period. It's hard. It's a reason that it has not been done since 2001, 2002, when the Sparks did it. Like, there's a reason, because it's hard. It's not easy to put together runs against teams that are targeting you. And realistically, Chicago and Connecticut have faced each other 9 times this year. There's no team that knows you in this league as well as the Connecticut Sun knows you. It is difficult to put together balances of attacks against a team that knows you so well. And that's on both sides, because they know Connecticut too. You know a team's strengths and weaknesses after you've played them that many times in a season. So it's hard, and to even have gotten to a point where you were in a position to go back to the WNBA Finals is amazing and a credit to your team. So, Game 5, sure, one that you want to forget, but ultimately, you gotta, and I mean, I'm not trying to give y'all participation trophies. I know athletes and they don't care about this kind of thing. They just want to win championships, which is totally fair. But realistically, that's a hell of a season that you guys have, because it is hard to get back to this level year in and year out. And to do it back to back is extremely difficult. It's why back-to-back championships are so revered. It is why, dynasties are so few and far between, because it is not easy to do. So don't, we gotta, put it in the proper perspective. To all kudos to Chicago for being at this point.
So now, I know we're running out of time here, but I want to give each of us just 30 seconds to do a little preview of what we're expecting as the Connecticut Sun and Las Vegas Aces get ready to meet. Neither one of these teams have a championship in the history of their franchises, so someone is going to win their first championship. I saw you tweet out some things about the regular season matchup between these two teams, Terrika. So is there anything from the regular season we should be taking into this series? You got 30 seconds.
Cool. Well, I will just reiterate my tweet, guys. I know that the Las Vegas Aces have been on a tear, and we just talked about how amazing Chelsea Gray has been, but I don't want anyone to come into the series thinking that it's going to be a cakewalk. First time these teams met up, Kurt Miller was out because of COVID, and I was there. I covered that game. Game 2, JJ scored 20 points. She was phenomenal. No one had an answer for her. Game 3, JJ didn't play because she was out with COVID, and it was a closer game than the score would have indicated. DeWanna Bonner played phenomenally. So I say all this to say, we really do have to let this play out. I think these teams match up a lot better than people will give it credit for. I think that big lineup from Connecticut will cause more of a problem for Las Vegas than some people will indicate. But I'm in for a great series. Like, this is going to be great. The MVP is going to show up and show out in this series. I feel it. So go Asia. I ain't mad at you, sis. Do what you do.
Yeah, congratulations to Asia Wilson, the 2022 MVP. I know both of us voted for her. We don't have time to get into that in this show, but definitely we will address. I always say we're going to address something on a later show. We need to start keeping a notepad.
How we keep people come back.
So keep coming back. So what I will say is this: we already know the Las Vegas Aces are looking like they're about to run through this series. But what I want to take a moment to do is really look at what happened with this Connecticut Sun team and why they are a formidable contender for this championship. Natisha Hiedeman, first and foremost, who we have not really even talked about. We talk about the front line of Connecticut so much. Hiedeman had an outstanding series. 1 turnover, 4 assists in that decisive game 5, 14 points, including a couple of buckets late where she just outran the defense and made hustle plays for her team, including disrupting Candace Parker defensively on ball reversal on one of their final possessions. Courtney Williams, 6 for 9, hit a late bucket coming off of a pin down screen against Chicago. Has found other ways to contribute, and not just in scoring the ball. Defense, cutting, working off of their bigs, rebounding, which we know she's great at. Jonquel Jones. Jonquel had 10 rebounds, had 15 points, but stayed out of foul trouble, fought through screens to make herself a factor on that block on Emma Meeseman. Then you move to Alyssa Thomas, the great passes, 10, almost had a triple-double, 2 assists away from a triple-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, getting them easy buckets late. And Bonner, who does everything she needs to do. And then, Carrington has come off the bench, but that they have found something. And you go back to the fact that they out-rebounded Chicago by 15 rebounds. They were 16 for 16 from the free throw line. This is a team that had struggled mightily from the free throw line in the series. They just stepped up and showed a different level of mental toughness, despite the turnovers, despite all the challenges down the stretch. And I just think they definitely deserve their respect for what they did. knowing that the Aces, we know where the Aces are. I mean, they're the favorite, like people think they're going to win the series 3-0. And I do think that Connecticut deserves some consideration as a team for what they've shown us.
I absolutely agree. I don't feel like it's necessary to do predictions because
we know where you're going.
I mean,
we know where you're going. I would say, I'm going to say, I think the Aces will win.
Oh, that's cute.
So you can say your prediction.
I mean, okay. I believe this will be a great series. I don't think it's going.
Terrika, really?
I'm trying to decide how many games because I think this could go 5 games. I think this could go 5 games.
I don't think it's going to go 5, but go ahead and tell us your score prediction.
Well, okay. I think it could go 5 games. It might only go 4, but I'm picking the Connecticut Sun.
Okay. We're shocked. So you think the Sun could win in 4?
I think the Sun will win 1 in Las Vegas for sure.
You just said you think the series is going to go 4 and you think Connecticut is going to win.
No, I said it could go. I said it could go 5. Could go 5. But I think Connecticut will win 1 in Las Vegas, and to me, that will be the turning point of the game the game for me.
Right. So they'll win 1 in Vegas, and then you think
they'll have to come home and win both. Right.
And you think they're going to win both. Or you think they're going to win 5, but you think they're going to win. All right.
I think they're going to win. But
it made her prediction.
Yes.
I've made mine. So keep me off the slander, and we will see what happens. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you guys next week. We're both headed to Vegas. Check us out on Twitter at LaChina Robinson and Terrika's at She Knows Sports. And we are at Around the Rim Pod on Twitter. So hit us up. Bye.
I can't do my hands like that, girl. I need my nails done.
Well, I need my nails done too. I need my hair done. I gotta go. Love y'all. Bye.
Bye, y'all.